This is Agent Provocateur with Allan Walsh and Adam Wylde.
Welcome to Agent Provocateur. I'm Allan Walsh with Adam Wylde. How are you, Adam?
Hello, hello. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I want to introduce our guest today. It's a trade deadline primer on Agent Provocateur. And our guest played 18 seasons in the National Hockey League. He scored 429 goals, winning 2 Stanley Cups with the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins. He scored 20-plus goals with 7 different NHL teams. He also played for Team USA in 3 Winter Olympic Games. As a player, he was traded at the NHL trade deadline to the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2009 and went on to be a key player on the Penguins team that won the Stanley Cup that year. Billy, I was on the ice with you in Joe Louis Arena, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, when you guys won the Cup. Upon retirement, he went to work for the Pittsburgh Penguins as Director of Player Development. After 3 years, he was promoted to Assistant General Manager, where he again won 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins. And in 2019, he was named the General Manager, where he is still working today, of the Minnesota Wild. Let's give a big welcome to Bill Guerin.
How about that?
How are you, Bill?
Oh, thank you for the introduction, Allan. That was the nicest conversation we've ever had.
Well, it probably cost you the least amount of money.
Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. You weren't wearing your ski mask this time. No, thank you. I'm excited to be on, and you mentioned that time being on the ice in 2009. I remember that. I remember that well, like it was yesterday. And just what a great team and great group of guys, and where I became very good friends with your one of your star clients. Marc-Andre Fleury, and that was just a great moment. And I'll never forget that.
The last 6.4 seconds are immortalized in history of that game. I don't think I breathed the last 5 minutes of that game. I was literally in the stands about 13 rows up behind Flower, behind the Penguins net. And my heart was pounding. I had beads of sweat coming down me, and I was surrounded by Red Wing fans, all in red.
I still get nauseous when that, because I was on the bench, and I the way I remember it is that there was about 12 seconds left, and Zetterberg was won like 2 faceoffs, and I'm like, There's 12 seconds left. How are they getting these scoring chances? Like, this can't happen. And then, the one with 6.5 seconds, I'm like, I think I said this in the Stanley Cup videos that they make. I'm like, that type of scoring chance, that part of the game, that defenseman. I mean, to have Nick Lidstrom, of all people, get that score. I'm like, he one of the greatest players of all time, and Flower just comes over, with the Secret Service save, like he was jumping in front of a bullet for the president. Like, to this day, I get queasy, I get nauseous just watching that. I'm like, oh God. And then we won, and honestly, it was just one of the. I loved that team so much. I was an older guy, and those young players who are now, 35, 36, 37, 38, they were so good to me. They were so good for me. And I remember sitting in the locker room with my wife after, everybody celebrating. We took 1 minute, and we just sat in my stall together, and we just watched everything. we just tried, because I knew my career was coming to a close shortly. And it's just like, this may never happen again. Let's just soak it in. And just vivid memories of that celebration. It's just, it was just such a, oh man, I just love it. It gets me, it makes me emotional. I just love that group.
How much different was it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Allan. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I just wanted to know, because you did win it with New Jersey earlier on in your career. How much different was the late career Stanley Cup versus, winning with Broder and all the legends that were on that team?
Yeah, it was different, because, and that was amazing too. I was 24.
It's amazing.
You think you're going to win every year now. Of course we are. We didn't make the playoffs the next year, but it was great because it just, I was so fortunate to be around so many great players. Not just great players, but great veteran players. There was the Scotty Stevens, the Bruce Drivers, John McClain, Kenny Danico, Randy McKay, Chris Terreri, guys that really took care of me, Marty, Scott Niedermayer, the younger guys, and brought us up. And Brian Rolston showed us the way.
Yep.
And it was a very different experience just because we were young, and I was young, and but so you're 24 years old, and then I went 14 years in between Stanley Cups, and in that time I'd gotten married, had 4 children, been traded a bunch of times, and then got to Pittsburgh, and it all came together. So. Yeah, it was a different experience having, my family there with me this time, and being, my wife was there in the first one, but we didn't have our children. So being able to share it with the kids and show them what it was all about and why, this is why we moved so many times. This is why you've been to so many schools. It's for this. And this is why Dad gets up in the morning in the summer to go work out for 3 or 4 hours, or he's got black eyes and loses teeth, and this is why, and they got it, and they understood it now. And so 2 very different experiences, but 2 really amazing. It's just the greatest. It's the greatest trophy in all of sports. But what goes into it, what goes into winning, is just it's incredible.
The journey to win it. I've been very blessed and fortunate from my vantage point to be in many dressing rooms with the team that won the cup after it's been won. And I've seen players hugging the cup and crying, and I've seen family members hugging the cup, cradling the cup in their arms, fathers, mothers, grandparents, sobbing.
Yeah.
And it's just, some of those moments are ingrained in my soul, give me chills.
Yeah.
And I'll never, ever forget it.
No. And if you watch a video from 95, when we won, you can see, look, I don't know if you probably remember this, but Mike Peluso
on the bench.
He couldn't play.
On the bench.
He couldn't play at the end of the game. He was so emotional. He was crying.
He was sobbing on the bench.
And
he was sobbing.
Yeah. And but that's what it is. That's the. It's I'm looking everything that you've put into it. And
I'm looking at the stats here, by the way. Mike Peluso with 167 penalty minutes in 46 games that year. So tough guy like that, right? That says something.
It does, and it's just the trophy that you really do bleed for it, and you have to put everything that you have into it, and it's just an amazing experience. And Allan, with your clients, you've been Flowers' agent since he's 15. You go, and when I did player development, it was such a great feeling to see. Guys that I had worked with, Brian Russ, Scott Wilson, Jake Gensel, all these kids, now they're Stanley Cup champions, and what they have become, and the professionals and the men that they've become. I was so proud of them. I mean, that's just it's a great feeling. It really is.
Yeah. So Billy, you were traded at the NHL trade deadline in 2009, and you've been an NHL executive now for many years. You've won 2 cups as an executive. And in every one of those years as director of player development or assistant GM and now general manager of the Wylde, there is a process you go through in preparing for trade deadline. We're 7 days from the NHL trade deadline right now. When do you start preparing for that day?
You know what, Allan? It's really an ongoing thought process. You know, you're constantly evaluating your team, seeing where you are in the standings, facing reality of where you are as a team. Are you good enough? How far do you have to go? So, in my mind, you're constantly thinking about it. But formally, we really start kind of buckling down at our midseason scouting meetings in January. Because that's when we really have a good assessment of what our team is, our strengths and weaknesses, where can we get better, where do we have to get better, and start addressing those. Who are the players that we think might be available? What's the asking price? All those scenarios we kind of try to go through, and then we kind of dial in on our most important needs. So, and then we can just start doing the legwork on it, going to see the players at the top of the list, and I start making phone calls, seeing asking price. And the asking price in January is very different what it is in March. So it's kind of fun to see where you start and see where you end. But so I would say like really kind of dialing in January.
Walk us through a typical call with another general manager, one of your brethren, in January when you're gathering intelligence on who might be available and what the asking price would be. Open that window into what a call like that is like.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on the guys. Some guys are a little. Some guys are a little more loose-lipped than the other ones, and will tell you exactly where they are. Some guys like to keep things a little more close to them, and not really. They're not ready to get into it, which is fine. But first of all, I enjoy all my conversations with my peers. They're great guys to bounce things off of. It's a fraternity. It's something where like I trust each and every one of these guys because we have very confidential conversations that if this stuff ever gets out, it can really affect a player's life, and we don't want to do that. So you can call and ask. You can ask what their plans are. What do they think they're doing? Are there specific players they're thinking of getting, moving on? What are they looking for? What do they want to add? Are they buying, selling? And I get the same calls. Like, what are you looking to do? And, for me, I'm kind of an open book just because I trust everybody, and I tell them. I tell them where we are and where I think we are in the process, and the players that could become available if they aren't already. And that's that. And you keep your notes on the conversation and the players that you think you could get. And but that's kind of the way it starts.
Are there certain GMs based on maybe a history of playing with them, playing against them, working with them previously in the same organization that you form as a GM better relationships with than others?
Yeah, I'm definitely closer. I'm closer to some guys than others, just because, like you said, I'd either played with them, against them, worked with them. But I mean, I don't know. It's just my personality. I like everybody. And yeah, we all, you know what? Sometimes we have heated conversations, and you can get into it with guys, but there's always a respect factor, and I love that because everybody's competitive, and you know, we're all just trying to win. But yeah, like I have, you know, like Craig Conroy was my roommate at the Salt Lake City Olympics. Chris Drury was my roommate at the Torino Olympics. You know, I worked in Pittsburgh with Tom Fitzgerald, with Patrick Alvin. You know, God, I mean, the list goes on. You know, I played against Blakey. You know, I played with Mike Greer in Edmonton for 3.5 years. I played against Danny Briere. So I've known, you know, all these guys. You know, I worked with Don Waddell in Pittsburgh. So you just get to know everybody more and more each year. And I feel privileged to be in the fraternity.
And how many pro scouts do you typically employ, or does a team employ? We have our director of player personnel, Chris Kelleher, and then we have 3 pro scouts under him. And then our good friend Ray Shiro is the special advisor to the general manager. And he, you know, Ray's got the freedom to pro scout, amateur scout, however he feels he can help us best at the time. He's got the freedom to do that. So I would say, in essence, we have, but then we have the player development guys are also watching games. But yeah, so we have 5 guys that are really watching pro hockey all the time. And when you have your meetings in January, are you then focusing more on guys that could be available at the deadline? Or do you just have a schedule that's been planned at the beginning of the year and you stick to that schedule?
No, we focus a lot on what could be coming up at the deadline in different scenarios. What if our teams, you know, are we in the mix? Are we out of the mix? And we do it at the same time as our amateur scouting meetings. So we have the amateur meetings going on in one room, and then we have the pros going on in another room. And I go back and forth. I just believe in a collaborative model, and I allow Judd Brackett, our director of amateur scouting, and Chris Kelleher, our director of player personnel, to run their groups. And I just go back and forth and just see kind of how things are going, and we're staying on track and just kind of going in the right direction. But yeah, it's these guys work so hard. They work incredibly hard. They travel all the time. They're, you know, planes, trains, automobiles, crappy hotels.
Yep.
You know, they're especially snowstorms,
you know, rains, ice storms.
Yeah.
There isn't anything that keeps these guys from making it to the rink to see a game.
No, they're like the mailmen in professional sports. You know, what is it? Nor rain, nor sleet, nor snow will stop. Something like that. They just go. And to be honest with you, when I was doing player development and assistant GM, and I was doing that, it's awesome. Like, you're in the trenches. You know, a lot of times, like, guys will, you know, so if guys fly into Toronto, everybody stays at like the Marriott at the airport. Yeah. And you shoot off to whether it's, you know, London or Peterborough or wherever, and then everybody comes back after their games, and you can go into the lobby bar. There's 25 scouts in there. And
on any given night. Yeah, I mean, like, when I'm there, I could be there to see a Leafs game or a junior game or a Marlies game. You go to the Marriott lobby bar, 11 p.m., and it's packed with hockey people.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And you know what? You grab a couple pints and you sit with guys, and you know, you talk hockey,
right?
And it's awesome. And you know what? Like, that job too. Like, if you have a certain role, like for when I was in player development and assistant GM, you know, if we drafted European players, we have to go over there as well. So you know, you find yourself in Sweden, Finland, Czech, Russia. So in that way too, hockey's it's such an awesome business to be in. It's opened up the world to, so many of us, to be able to go over there and experience that. And, it's great when I would go over to Sweden and meet up with Patrick Alvin, who's the GM in Vancouver now, and him and Tommy Westland would have everything set, and we got the hotels, we got the games, I got the rent-a-car, and we're going, and we're going here and there, and then just you're seeing all these small towns in a different country that you've never been in, but you're seeing it like in you're in these small rinks, so you're getting like a local flavor of where you are, and it's fantastic.
It's one of my favorite things about the job. You drive into Karlstad and you go to the rink. You drive into Linköping and you go into the town and you go to a restaurant and you have a little bite to eat before the game. And then you get to the game in time for the warm up, and there's 7 or 8 different guys from other teams that are there, and you hey, you're here. What are you doing here?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And you generally always stay in the same hotels. Right. So it's the most incredible life. It's life on the road, but if it's a hockey life, it's a wonderful life.
It really is. I remember one time we were. I was at the what do you call it? The Kerala Cup in Helsinki, and we stayed at the Hotel Lily Roberts, this great little boutique hotel, and it's got an awesome little lobby bar, and sitting in there with Tommy Fitzgerald and Scott Mellenby and Jimmy Clark. Jimmy and I got into this huge political argument and all this stuff, but it was awesome. Like you're just hockey guys, just, I don't know, halfway across the world, having gin and tonics after watching your games and just, arguing about life and just talking about everything. And it's just awesome.
I met the lobby bar in the Prague Marriott one year, long time ago, with Jimmy Clark. He was one of the greatest guys in this business. He was assistant GM in Columbus at the time, and he says, Allan, people think I'm the assistant GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, but I'm not. I'm like, you're not? He goes, no, I'm not. I have one job, one purpose in this world. And I said, well, what's that? He goes, it's to keep Doug McClain out of prison.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. I'll never forget that. God, I was staying, Patrick, Alvin, and I, we've been everywhere together, right? And we had this crazy travel day, and we were staying at the Ritz-Carlton at Red Square in Moscow, and it was awesome. And we just went down to the bar to have a couple drinks. And you know what? Like, just out of nowhere, Alexei Yashin walks in. And I think he was just like home visiting people, right? He wasn't working or anything like that. But yeah, I played against Yashin my whole career. And he just walks in, and you're in Moscow and you're sitting in a hotel bar and a guy comes in, he goes, oh, hey, Billy, how you doing? Just like it's nothing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's the best. So we're right now 7 days from the NHL trade deadline. What's the level of activity like right now? Walk us through a typical day. How many GMs are you talking to? And do you feel, based on your years of experience doing this, a certain rhythm to when things start happening?
Yes, a typical day right now, it depends like where you are with your team. We're on the outside looking in right now. We could be pretty active. Yesterday was a busy day for me. Spoke to multiple general managers. But again, just nobody I guess it depends who you're talking to. Some guys like to get out in front of it. Some guys like to wait a little while. They try to wait you out. Are they ready to do something? And some teams get very serious very early. So like today I spoken to one GM. You know, it's 2:35. I've spoken to one GM, and I missed a call from one. So I'll call him back, but not overly busy. But I think as we get closer, it will start ramping up. But I think just the pressure just builds and builds and builds a little bit more.
There's a picture of you on the phone, by the way, Bill, on the bench. I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a picture of you going viral on Twitter right now. You taking a phone call on the bench at opening or morning skate this morning. So, you know, that's how intense things are from a media side.
Yeah, you were talking to me. You were talking to me.
I got the crash. Jeez.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. But I do have friends. I do have other things going on. Other people do call me. So
no way.
Yeah, no, the only people that have my cell number are other GMs and agents.
Okay.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. I got a question about it just in this particular spot, because obviously you're getting into talking about negotiating, buying, selling, whatever else. Do you have any negotiation? And I guess can ask you both this question because Allan, you do a ton of negotiation too. Any like negotiation? In every negotiation I do this, and in every negotiation I do not do this. Like, what are your rules of engagement?
Oh, Allan, you go first because I want to hear this.
What the inside edge?
I think that every conversation about a player with anyone in management is a unique conversation. I don't think there's any pattern or there's any rules of engagement. Generally, I'd say 99% of all discussions are very colloquial, very friendly. There's lots of banter back and forth. You get down to business when you need to get down to business, but everybody's, part of this, and everybody is going to do their part to, I'm going to do what I can to further my client's interests. Bill has a job to do as a general manager of an organization, doing what's in the organization's best interests. And the vast majority of the time, everybody's interests are somewhat aligned. It's very rare when the interests are not aligned, even if you're having discussions about, maybe a general manager is going to be trading a player. That's not necessarily a bad thing or a negative, or it means that there's dissension or discord. Sometimes it's in everybody's best interests. Contract's coming to an end. It's time for the player to move on. Everybody knows this. A general manager is working to try to get a player to where he would like to go. The agent is working hand in hand with that, and everybody's working together on the same cause. And that to me is the vast majority of the time. It's very rare that it's actually confrontational. Very rare.
Yeah. Allan, I was just writing that down. Can you spell colloquial?
I'll text it to you when we're done.
Thank you. I agree with Allan on all of that. I really do. I think the most important thing to me is the best interest in both parties. There's always a place where we can all be happy. And as a GM, I'm trying to do the best job I can to make things good in Minnesota. And part of that is making sure my players are happy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to screw them on a deal. I don't want to take advantage of them. And so what I want to do is be fair. I want to be fair where they're happy and we're happy, and then we can kind of just move along together. I agree with Allan. There are no written rules, but I do like to deal in the real world. I would say my only frustration is when I just don't believe in the I'm going to come in way up here, you're going to come in way down here, and we're going to grind it out and meet in the middle. We both know where the contract's going to end up. So let's get there.
I like that.
And it saves a lot of time.
It saves a lot of time, and I think it honestly it helps build on the relationship, because you avoid a lot of, like you said, Allan, like the 95% of the conversations are on good terms and good, but there are the times where you do get frustrated with each other. And I think the more realistic you are and not shooting for the moon, and this either way is important for the club player relationship and the club agent relationship. And I think that's very important.
Yep. And in many ways, Adam, to get back to your question, a general manager and an agent may know each other and have had many conversations with each other, but maybe not necessarily have done business before.
Right.
And it's only when you start doing business and do deals together and develop a level of trust. And that's very important. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing in this business. Trust is not automatic. It's earned.
Yeah.
Both ways, both sides. And when a general manager is able to do business with an agent and learn that he can trust him, and an agent is able to work with a general manager and learn that he can trust him as well, then it's actually a lot. This business is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's serious. You're dealing with people's lives, and it's a sacred responsibility, but you're allowed to also enjoy it and have passion for it.
Yeah.
And those are the best times in conversations and situations when you come away with either a contract or an outcome or a resolution where you're like, you know what, we all really worked together, trusted each other, and we all got what we wanted at the same time.
Yeah. I would think too, Allan, like, you've been doing this a long time, and, talking to like guys like Ray Shero and Don Waddell, and even guys who are not in the job anymore, as you go along and you deal with certain general managers and agents deal a lot together. I consider a lot of agents my very good friends, and that relationship builds over the years. And when it's all said and done, there are people that I'll remain in contact with. It's pretty cool.
So can you walk us through your preparation for D-Day, deadline day?
Yeah.
What time do you get to the office in the morning? Typically?
So I always like to be with the team on deadline day. We happen to be on the road this year, so we're going to be we have back-to-back games. We have Arizona on the 7th, and then we're in Colorado on the 8th. So we will get together. We have all our pro scouts coming in to Arizona. We'll meet that night. We'll get together for dinner. Then meet the next morning. Just see what's come. Like between now and then, a lot of things are going to have come in, and see where we're at. And just kind of get organized. So we'll end up going to the game. We'll fly to Colorado after the game, and we'll be up. What are we going to be? Mountain time, so that's 2 hours. That's 2 hours from East Coast time. So, I'd say we'll probably be up and at 'em, going at 7, because it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and maybe even earlier. Depending on what's going on and how busy it could be. But we'll be yeah, we'll be huddled up in a room at the hotel, and yeah, just kind of seeing what happens with all our information.
How many calls do you typically have in on deadline day?
Oh man. Oh. So this is funny. The one deadline day, like 3 years ago, I had just gotten over COVID, and I was still quarantined, and so I did it from my house. Like, I couldn't go anywhere, and I think I got 3 calls that day because we weren't really doing anything. But like last year it was hundreds. Like, my phone just didn't stop. And, you know, you're not just getting it from other GMs, you're getting them from agents saying, hey, look, my guy here is available. Or my guy seems to be on the move. Do you have interest in him? Or, you know, he's got a no move, but he'd lift to go to you guys or whatever. So it's not just, you know, it's not just other general managers. It's agents as well. So last year, I think we made 5 moves. So it was go time. It was really, really busy. Yeah, I rely heavily on, you know, my support staff. You know, sometimes I have to have them pick up another line or call somebody back so we don't miss something. But it's a real team effort.
And when a trade gets done, a lot of people may not be aware, there's then a trade conference call
yes.
with the league, with NHL Central Registry. Do you participate yourself on those calls, or do you delegate that to somebody else as you continue making calls and speaking to people on deadline day?
I delegate those to assistant GMs, and yeah, because there's, you know, hey, look, you make one deal, another one's coming right down the pipe, and you've just got to be ready for it. So we have, you know, the other guys doing that. And
is that coordinated beforehand? This is what you're going to be doing on deadline day?
Yeah. Those are the responsibilities, and the guys know that going into it. It's just part of their role. So yeah, we're ready to go. Everybody's got their responsibilities, and you know, hey, things change too. Like, you got to be able to roll with the punches too. And I remember last year, I was talking to Pat Verbeek the other day, and him and I got the John Klingberg deal done. I mean, like, we literally had like 30 seconds to get it in.
Yeah.
And we're calling each other, we're calling the league, everything's going back. We honestly barely got it in. And it was like getting down to the wire, and we were both getting really nervous that we wouldn't be able to get it in.
I wonder.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I wonder, Bill, I was going to ask you something along those lines, because, you know, these are major assets, millions of dollars, futures of teams, and very, like, either like long-term futures or short-term futures being the playoffs that you're kind of playing with, that you're adjusting, that you're moving. How many deals do come together in the last hour, 2 hours? You know, because a lot of these things seem like they happen over weeks and months, but have you ever had to make a really snap decision and go, yes, I guess I do want to do that, and this wasn't on the table yesterday?
Yeah, the John Klingberg.
Klingberg, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like, honestly, we didn't know if we were going to have interest in him. Some were in favor of it, some weren't. We didn't know if he was going to become available or go somewhere else. And then that day it was like, okay, this is it. It's, you know, he's available. Do we want to do it? And I made the call that I wanted to do it. And, you know, so Pat and I had to work very quickly to get it done. And then there are others that, you know, that take months to do, because they might be on a bigger scale. It might be more complicated with the cap or cash. You know, now you see teams kind of being the middleman on deals, and so they can get more complicated. But yeah, like I said, you got to be able to roll with the punches and be ready for anything, because a player could become available with 20 minutes left, and it could be a good fit, and the asking price could be right. Do you want to do it? And you've got to be able to make decisions. So, that can get that. I love it. I love deadline day. Not just that we're going to do anything, but it's the competitiveness ramping up. Your blood gets going, and it's pretty. It can be pretty wild.
How much dissension or conflict behind the scenes could there be within an organization on deciding whether to make a deal or not, or which way to go on a particular situation? Oh, does it ever get heated?
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, really heated. I've seen FU matches. I've seen, like guys storming out of rooms. I've seen it all. But it's you want the passion. You want guys to believe in who they're fighting for. Like, do you want them or do you not want them? And I don't want guys sitting on the fence. I want you to, there's a certain level. I think I haven't seen it. We haven't done it really in Minnesota, but like we do have guys going back and forth. But you need that. You need the passion. I don't want guys being, agreeing with me on everything. And I don't want guys agreeing with each other on everything. That we need to have guys with their own opinions and feel comfortable enough to express what they feel. Like if you feel a certain way, we want you to say it. Don't feel like you can't say it because you're going to get bashed. No, those are your feelings. Say it. We're all working for the same thing here. We got a good working environment. Speak up. And I think at certain times there's healthy, respectful conflict, and I think that's important because I think we'll get to the best resolution that way. As long as we're speaking to each other with respect, you respect the other guy's opinion, and you can easily get past anything, then that's really good.
Adam?
Well, I'm you're somebody who's been on both sides of this. So I think your perspective is unique. You're a general manager now. You know what it's like to be traded to a new team at the deadline. How hard is it? And what are your expectations when a new player comes in? And you've got, 4 or 5 weeks to the playoffs. You got to find a new system. Everybody else has been playing it for a year. How difficult was it for you? And what are your expectations when you bring a new player in to fit in and figure out the system before round one?
So I was traded twice at the deadline. Once from St. Louis to San Jose. And that first experience of going at the deadline was really eye-opening. The expectations and the pressure that I put on myself were enormous. The team didn't do it. The management didn't do it. I did it. I thought I had to come in and save the day and be the guy, be everything. And in all actuality, they just wanted me to come in and be myself and play my game. So that was a real struggle. So a couple of years later, I was traded from Long Island to Pittsburgh, and I had a whole different outlook at it. I had a lot of conversations with myself, and I said, look, you tried to be Superman last time, and that didn't work. I said, just go in, be yourself, play your game, be a good teammate. And that I really learned from my first experience, and it really, really helped me in my second. So when I'm making a deadline deal, I really want to make sure that I lower expectations for the player or players that we get. It's not on you. Just come in and be yourself, play your game. You don't have to be anything special. just be yourself. Like, it's just because it's too much. Like, we're already a good team. You're just here to support and be a part of the guys. You're not here to save the day. We're good. I just really try to lower the pressure that a player puts on himself. And you know what, too? They're leaving their family. Like, you leave your wife and kids behind, you jump on a plane and you go. You have to make sure that, I think it's important that they have opportunity to bring their family in, or if there's a couple days off, they get to go and see them. Just make sure that they have, they're not just locked in a hotel for a couple months and just sitting there. So I think it's important to make sure that we treat the players like that when they come in.
It's a human
How
side.
hard is it making that call to a player to tell him he's been traded?
Well, it's hard. It's hard because, especially with guys that you've created, created a relationship with. They've played hard for you. They're good guys. They have a family that's really set in the city that you're in. Their kids are in school. Their wife's involved. They're good people. And you got to tell them that they're leaving. That stinks. On the flip side of it, I've been traded. I think I was traded 4 times in my career. I had 4 little kids. My wife, we were always involved, in sports and stuff like that, in school. And it's hard, but you know what? They'll come out on the other side too. They'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to, because I have a job to do, and I take comfort in my own experiences in seeing how, we got through it together as a family, and they'll be okay. It's a tough one at first, but they'll be okay. So that's kind of what I think of.
Billy, listen, you've been incredibly generous with your time. I told you around 45 minutes, and as usual, I've gone over my window with you, and you've been incredibly patient, and I know you're unbelievably busy. You're on the road. You're in St. Louis right now. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on and sharing your thoughts, your reflections, your memories, and just giving everybody a window into what your life is like, what general managers typically go through in preparing for deadline day, and what deadline day is all about. So I'm really appreciative, and I just feel very fortunate and blessed that you'd come on and share all that with us. Yeah,
Allan, thanks for having me on. Adam, thank you. And Jesse behind the scenes. This has been great, and I hope your listeners enjoy it.
They will.
Yeah, Allan, you'll probably call me later with something, right? So
yeah, I'll call you about 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
But thanks a lot. This has been great. I appreciate you having me on.
This has been Agent Provocateur with Allan Walsh and Adam Wylde. Follow Allan Walsh on Twitter @WalshA. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts by searching Agent Provocateur and hitting the subscribe button. YouTube.com/SDPN.